Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're at in the world. This is Roger Griffith. I'm the president of the Plex2E worldwide user community. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today to talk about the planning that's been going on for our upcoming virtual conference that's going to be held October 22nd and 23rd. We've put a lot of work into organizing this, and we're going to share that information with you today. So the theme for this conference is Race to the Future. So it's based on the fact that the Formula One is having a race in Texas that same week, and so we're just kind of latching onto them using their Formula One theme, and it's going to definitely be a lot of high octane sessions and a lot of fun. So again, my name is Roger Griffith. My official position is I'm the Director of Software Development for Eagleson Systems Products. They're based in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I work from home out of Boise, Idaho. So like we usually do in these webinars, we like to do some poll questions. So we're going to start off with the poll question here. So this poll is basically what are your plans for registration? So John, if you'll take over the actual poll and show them where they can vote on this question for their plans for registration.
Yeah, basically about a fifth are already registered and a fifth are planning to register before the 7th. Not many people are waiting, only 4% are waiting until the last moment, but 41% are undecided or looking for budget, and 11% can't make it because they're having their hair done on those days.
Okay, so let me just encourage everyone to please go out to the Plex2E.com website and get registered for the conference. It's $25 through September 7th, and it's going to increase to $50 after that. So save yourself $25, get registered for the conference, and I think that you're going to be very pleased with what we've got lined up for you for this conference. So,
and we got the hat. We've got the hat too. Summer's sporting the hat. Drop your head down a little bit.
Awesome. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit here. There's several incentives for you to not only be a part of this conference as an attendee, but also as a speaker or session leader. So we're going to talk about that later in this webcast. So right now, let me introduce, this is our lineup of speakers for today's webinar. You've heard from Mark O'Brien. He's going to be, he's our sponsor coordinator. You've heard from him. We've also got Rob McBride from United Heritage. We got Russell Berkeley from ICS Courier, and they are based out of Canada. And we've got Mark Schroeder from CM First. I'd like to remind everyone, as the webinar is being presented today, if you will please type any questions you have into the webinar console, and we'll take all questions at the end of today's webinar. Okay, so talking about this virtual conference, it's October 22nd and 23rd. We have 3 tracks: Plex, 2E, and Technology, 1 day of sessions, 1 day of hands-on lab, $25 registration fee. Best value on the planet goes to $50 after September 7th. You're going to get a free conference hat, and the logo for that hat is on the right there. It's a Formula One theme logo, very sharp. You'll be the envy of all your friends when you wear that hat. We're also going to encourage everyone to wear these hats during the virtual conference. So we'll get those things shipped to you, so you'll have them in time to be sporting those hats during the conference. We also have conference t-shirts with that same logo on it there, and those will be $15. And you can also be sporting that t-shirt during the virtual conference. If you are a speaker or a session leader, you're going to get a free Stetson hat. It's going to be fabulous. We'll get that thing ordered exactly to your size. You'll be the envy of all your friends when you sport that hat. We have awards for the best session for each track, and those are voted on. So there'll be 3 awards, 1 for each track, and that'll be something you'll definitely want to have. We're also going to have some fun games. We're going to make new friends, and we're going to learn things. We're going to have a happy hour. Bring your own bottle, of course, and we'll do that during like the one of the lunch sessions. So this is what we've got lined up for everyone in terms of sessions. So this is the Plex track. This is all kind of depending upon who we get for speakers and what kind of response that we get on the voting, which I'm going to talk about later. But this is what we are tentatively looking at for sessions. So a show and tell, a deep dive, standards layer, outside the lines, a 5-year plan, platform migration, C++ to C#, tips and techniques, web services, web generation. And like I say, all of these sessions, if you go to the Plex2E.com website, there's a link on there and it shows all the detail of these sessions. So I would encourage you to please go there and look at all the detail and vote on which sessions you are interested in. For the 2E track, we have show and tell, deep dive, outside the lines, 5-year plan, platform migration, tips and techniques. That one we've already got a speaker lined up for, and we obviously will take more speakers for multiple instances of that session. Web services, web generation, and new in 2E, web service deployment, and that's with Mark Schroeder. He's signed up to do that one. But the rest of them, you'll notice there's no speaker signed up. That's where we want you guys to get involved, and please sign up to take on either a speaker or a session leader. So on a speaker, you can either do like a 45-minute presentation where you're doing the whole presentation, or maybe a 10-minute lightning talk. We'll have about 3 of those. On the technology track, the sessions that we're proposing are automated load functional testing, graph, big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, robotic business automation, DB2 deep dive, cloud deployment, workload automation, single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, DevOps, building REST services on the IBM i using IWS and SQL, and that one we've got Rob McBride. He's going to be talking about that today. So here's the most important slide in this entire presentation. This is where I am reaching out to you to ask you to reach deep down into your soul and volunteer to be a speaker or a session leader for the conference. Right now, that's the one thing that we need. We've got all these great sessions lined up. We just don't have enough speakers yet. So I'm asking you to look through the lineup of sessions, and if it's something you have some expertise in, please send me an email at roger@plex2e.com and say, Roger, I'm your man. I will do this. Whoever you are, men, women, children, we don't care. We'll take anything. Okay, you're going to get a Stetson hat. It's going to look like the one I'm wearing. I'm not sure if you can see me or not, but it's really sporty. There's awards for best sessions. This is something you'll have, to put in your collection of all your trophies and all of your, prized possessions. It'll be great. It might be a belt buckle that's got best session on it. It's going to be fabulous. You're going to love it. The sessions that we're looking for is if you can either do a 10-minute lightning talk or a 45-minute session. That's what we want. That's where to find me. This is the most important part of this presentation. This is where we really need you guys to help us out. Okay, so now we are coming to another poll question, and this is regarding being a speaker or volunteer. So your option on it is yes, I want to speak for a full session, or yes, I want to give a 5 to 10-minute lightning talk, or you want to be a session leader. And as a session leader, you'll just be responsible for organizing, finding speakers, putting together a session. Or you like to contribute in some other way. We'll take anything that you can give us. We'll find something for you to do. Or the option that you can take, I don't really recommend this one. It's basically you just want to be entertained for this minimal fee of $25. So don't click that one, okay? So I'm just recommending you select one of the first 4, and you can select. I think you can select multiple options, so you can check all the first 4, but just don't check that last one there. That's really not an option. It really shouldn't be there. I do not encourage that option.
38% participate in lightning talks or a roundtable.
Fantastic.
13% of the responders want to speak on a session. Nobody wants to be a session leader. So that's Russell's for 2E right now. We're looking for session leader for Plex. And then if we'd like to help out in some other way is 25%. So thank you everybody for that.
Did anyone
for
check
stepping up?
I can't see the responses. Did anyone check that last one? It says they just want to be entertained only.
No.
Good, good.
No.
That's the
They
response.
didn't dare cross Mr. Griffith on that one.
Thank you. Thank
That
you.
was a line not happening. So
we don't have to shame them by putting their responses to their website. Great. Good to know. Okay, so
the next is me.
The next is you. So this is Mark O'Brien. He's talking right now. He is in charge of getting sponsors for this conference. Mark, it's all yours.
Yeah. So as you well know, you can look at my the kind of the NASCAR logos underneath my picture. In the past, we've had major vendors, including say Broadcom, IBM, others, and also we have resellers and other Broadcom regional partners, and we support everybody worldwide. We had respondents from everywhere except for Antarctica. In our conferences John passed, and Roger and Rob know that the first one was in Boise, the first one. This is the 11th. So the sponsorships are at lower money rates this year, $250, $500, and $1,000. It's less expensive than it's been before because it's less cost for us to be able to put the event on virtually without sacrificing any of the content and the technical value that people crave, which is the main reason why I'd come. So I just have a general request to people. If you can think of a third-party vendor that you're using in your stack in either Plex or 2E that I haven't done, I'll be reaching out to about 7 or 8 different vendors. But I'm always looking for new vendors that might not even be aware that there's a solution that works pretty well, either on the IBM iStack or Plex or 2E. So just send it to info@plex2e.com. and it'll get to me, or you can personally email me. Several of you have done that already. I really appreciate those suggestions. And I've got a counterpart, Bruno Leconte, who's CM France, and he's our sales leader in Europe. He'll be handling sponsorships on the European side as well, too. So Bruno and I will be hosting a sponsor info session exactly 1 week from today, September 9th, 10 a.m. Central Time. And we'll be able to answer all of your questions. We'll have people there who can answer and let you know what's going on. So if you want to be a sponsor session or have a speaker, a vendor-sponsored speaker talk, that's okay too at the higher levels. So I want to thank all the sponsors in the past, and now I'm going to turn it back over to you, Roger, and let's get into these lightning talks and start entertaining and educating people today.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, so our first featured speaker, this is Rob McBride. He is the Director of Software Development for United Heritage Financial Group. They're in Meridian, Idaho. And he's going to talk to us today about building REST services on the IBM I using IWS and SQL. So Rob, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Roger. Just so as Roger mentioned, Director of Software Development in United Heritage. We're based in Meridian, Idaho, just right outside of Boise, where the first Plex conference took place. My background is as a Plex developer, and I just want to give a heads up that this session is really more about technologies outside of Plex and 2E, not directly related, but it does have some reasons why we're doing this is because of the state of services as they are in Plex. So there's a speaker that I am fond of, Simon Sinek, and he has a book called Start With Why, and a lot of that has to do with the history that we have with services in Plex. And originally we started out with SOAP services. I believe that was in Plex 6.1. We were using WCF at the time to deploy those SOAP services. That was great that we could begin using that. I was working with, did some work with Rob Lizelle. He was saying that I was like one of the first adopters of using that technology. So that was really fantastic to begin in that realm. But then we had a conference. I want to say it was the last one that we had in Austin that Rob was there, and he began to talk about how REST was better. And I don't know if you guys, if anybody was there, he had a screen and it was of Grumpy Cat and saying how awful SOAP was. And that's mainly because of the SOAP had headers and it's not as lightweight compared to REST. So we were all excited about REST, and then came CA saying, oh, hey, we're not going to give you REST natively in Plex, but what we'll do is we'll create an application outside, and I might be butchering the name. I want to say it was Web Services Orchestrator. The idea behind it was to basically take your SOAP services that you're creating out of Plex and then marshal them as REST services. So you could basically create a number of SOAP services and then basically expose them as REST. So you could just use the GET post requests as you would like a normal service, but on the back end, it's a SOAP service, but as it would appear as to the consumer, it would be as a REST service. So come to find out, CA, they wanted to attach a hefty price tag to that tool, and I don't think it went anywhere after that. So current state of services with Plex is that we have SOAP, which again, it's a bit heavy, and we have no REST. I believe that you have REST services in 2E, so this might be geared more towards those who are on the IBMI using Plex and not, and the 2E users have their own way of generating those REST services. So when I give this session during the Plex conference coming up, I just want to lay down some expectations. It's terrible to get into a session and be caught off guard and not being given things that you're expecting. So this is what I wanted to lay down. So what not to expect. So we're looking at REST services on the IBMI. We are not going to be doing them over SQL Server or Oracle or using some other platform. We're going to be using IBMI DB2. And I'm not going to go over how to set up and configure the integrated web services, because that is a tool that comes with the IBMI. It is free. I don't know how to set it up. I am not a system administrator. So I would suggest if you do talk to your system administrator, it might already be set up. It's a fantastic tool if you haven't used it. So, but what to expect? So we're going to look at how do we create an application server. That's really quick and is foundational to creating these services. And then we'll go over and to see how easy it is to create and maintain these REST services using SQL. And we'll go over how to pass parameters to make the requests dynamic. So we want to be going into something that looks like this. So we're going to be showing, hey, we have this service and we're going to consume that service through we can go through a web request or some other means to get the JSON returned from your database. So this is an example that we've done. We took a printed worksheet and we had to integrate it into a digital format. So we did this using the SQL on IWS to return JSON to a consuming application to render a worksheet digitally, so that way we can have people who are now remote because of the situation with the coronavirus. So we were able to get them the data that they needed, and we're able to present it to them digitally, and then we can save that then, and we don't have to deal with paper. And that's a big deal as we go on in this format. Our office normally has a lot of people in the office pushing paper. One of the big things that we had to do was get away from that. So this is one way that we were able to do that, was using SQL and IWS to generate these REST services. So as you can see in the last there, in that bottom screenshot, there's a parameter that's what we're passing. That's a claim number. So yeah, we'll cover over how to passing parameters, how to set those up in the SQL. And so in the end, I'll show you how we can all get a little rest with the help of IBMI and SQL. That's it for me.
Thank you, Rob. Fantastic.
You'd have to go to the Freedom of Information Act to retrieve that that claim, Rob.
What's that?
Didn't have to make a request with the Freedom of Information Act to get that
Yeah,
claim.
yeah. So no. That's why I had the redacted.
Some of it.
That's right. It's got to protect the PII.
Okay, great.
Right. Thank you very much, Rob. That was fantastic. Okay, so our next featured speaker today is Mark Schroeder. He is a senior consultant and he works for CM First, and he's going to be talking about 2E web service deployment. I'm going to turn it over to you, Mark.
All right, thank you. So let me show my screen here. Can everybody see what says new in 2E?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what I want to do is just briefly talk about some of the upgrades that have happened in 8.7.1 in 2E. And then we're going to go through a short demo on deploying web services with 2E and also with our Matchpoint product. So we can give you a comparison there. So let's see if it'll go here. There it goes. Okay, so the first thing is they've improved some SQL support. This first item is returning n number of rows. You know, right now in 2E, when you have a SQL statement, it'll, especially in like an edit tran, it'll return maybe 1,000 or several thousand rows if that's what your SQL statement returns. So that produces poor performance for you. So now they have a value, that the model value that'll let you return X number of rows in your generated SQL. So it is at the model level, so you have to remember that, but it will improve performance because, you know, you might want to just return the number of records you see on a screen or something like that. So it'll let you return 50, 100, or whatever value you determine is best for your system. The other thing is they have a function value that allows you to have the system generate correct either SQL or RLA based on the file generation mode that you have. So that then gives you a better optimization because you're sort of matching the generation of the file. So both of those are new, and you can access those with 8.7.1. The bigger thing, though, is the web services. That's what everybody is sort of excited about, I think. That is looking at 8.7.1. With this, the first thing is you can deploy web services with meaningful names. So now you don't have to return like WP001 as a web service name, you know, so the people that are consuming the web service can actually know what the variable is supposed to mean. So that's a very nice feature. The other thing that I like is you can return now X number of elements in an array. So, you know, it used to be when you return values from an array, say you had an array that was 1,000 long, it would return 1,000 records, even if only 2 of them had data in them. So now you can actually return just the records, just the elements that actually have data. So I think that's an excellent feature that they've provided. And thirdly, in order to support the elements in the array, they've had to add integer type support for binary fields into 2E. So it's a byproduct. You can use it in other things, but it's primarily based for using in the returning X number of elements in the array. And of course, then we have the RESTful web service support. And the support is fairly good. You can produce simple REST services, and you can produce REST services that have multiple modules in them. So you have multiple capabilities within one service. And so what we're going to do today, well, we're going to talk about deployment. So IBM obviously has had its method of deploying web services. And in order to do that, well, we've seen that there's IBM Wizard, the CM Matchpoint. We have developed a process, and then we have the 2E deployment method. So there are at least 3 methods. I think these are going to be the most common methods for deploying as a 2E company the web services. So what's different about them? The IBM iWizard, you know, most of you have probably used it. You can deploy both SOAP or REST with it. It has a set of steps that you follow. There's at least 9 steps. If you have multiple modules in your REST service, it could actually become larger because you have to do some work for each module as well. So what I want to do though is I want to do a quick demo on deploying a simple REST service with 2E and a simple REST service with Matchpoint. And that'll give you sort of a view on how the process works. The deployment hasn't changed a lot from the, in 2E, it hasn't changed a lot from before 8.7.1. It's just now you can actually do the REST service as well. So I'm gonna show a video and I'm gonna start and stop it along the way as we talk about it. So here we have our REST service we're gonna deploy. You can see that I have named them with an underline because now you need to have them without spaces between the names, because now these, like especially the module here, is going to become part of what you're calling within the URL of the program. So if some of you haven't used services in 2E, there's typically 3 pieces that are used. We have the external function, which is a module. We have a service program, which consumes your module. And then the web service, which is actually the part that is going to deploy your web service. So you have all 3 pieces. And the web service is a part we're going to look at today because that is a part that actually takes care of our process. So when you get in here, you'll have a blank screen typically the first time through, but you have to put information in all these: your service name, the program file, the program or the function you're going to use. Here's the difference: we can do a REST DFT type of web service, or we can use a REST CFG. The REST DFT, that's a more simpler type of REST service, like what we're doing today. And the CFG, that's where you can have multiple modules used within it. And here are the meaningful names. That's a new part. So you can either use meaningful names, or you can continue using deploying web services without meaningful names. So once you get this completed, then you would do an F10. You want to create a web service instance. And when you do the F10, it's going to bring this screen up. In 2E, when you're performing this option from 2E, most of your screen fields are filled in. There are just a few items you want to do. You want to make sure that you install it to the server. You need to give it the server name, and that has to match case with the server that you're deploying to. I like to use the service ID, so I put the web server ID there instead of my user ID. And then you add your library list that's going to be used at runtime. Once you do this, have the library list correct and all the other fields, you just press enter, and then it does the installation into the web server. So once this is completed, you would be able to go in as a developer and test your development code and have it work for you. Then once you're done testing as a developer, you want to move it over to QA. So on the same box, you would have a QA web server. This is a typical method that people follow. So you need to deploy it to the web server for QA. So we're going to use the same command that you called from within 2E, but this time all this information was blank because you're calling it from the command line. So the first thing before you call this command, you would have had to move all your objects over to your QA libraries, and then you fill all this information in just like you did for development. You're going to want to be sure to install to the server, have a name, you know, the object name, the library name, and so forth, and make sure that all that is taken care of. Give it a library list, and then this service will then be installed over into your QA server. And then the QA goes through and they do their work on, they verify and validate that yes, that service works. And now you want to move it over to the production server. So you have this command here that will create a file that will collect all the web service information needed, and you'll then send this file over to the production server. And once you have this taken care of and moved over to the production server along with your objects, then you can call this second command, and that will then install your web service onto the production web server. So what we've done is we've taken from development, we've installed on the development server, did our testing, we went to QA, installed it on a QA web server, did our testing, and then went to production. So we're going to do the same thing here in Matchpoint. One of the differences with Matchpoint is we've already pre-configured what the environments are, so Matchpoint knows what our environments are in this case. So what we're going to do is we have a change request and we have our module and our service program. We could use any ILE program. We don't have to use a service program, but we could use any ILE program in this case. So it's not necessarily tied to 2E to perform deployment with Matchpoint. So you can do any native. So possibly with what Rob was talking about, we could use some of those. All right, so now I've gotten this. I'm going to define what my web service is. So I'm going to give it a name. And so I just type that in. And then after I give it a name, I'm going to give it a service type. So we're going to, we could do SOAP or we could do REST. In this case, we're going to do a REST. And before I complete this, we've integrated some of our Evolve IT technology into here. So from the model, you can see that we have brought in the field names that 2E knows the fields as. It's brought in the parameter usage, input or output. And we also have from the generated code what the fields are, so you can see what they are here. And we developed then our friendly names from the 2E information. Now you can have the option at this point to go in and modify these friendly names if you want them to be something else. So now we're going to go ahead and accept this, and it's going to do a little bit of work in the background. So I want to go ahead and go look back at what we just did. So it just created our URI template. So I wanted to show you that. It would, if there were more input variable values, it would add them to the template, but it creates that for you in the process. And then the next step from this is to go ahead and deploy it. So what we're going to do is click on the item that is the service program, and we're going to install the web service. So this is on our development area. So we're going to confirm that we want to deploy it there. And you notice all we had to do is once we defined our service, we just have to click on deploy it. And here then we see what the deployment was. We see information such as the URL that's being used. So when you click the test button, you could go, it'll take you to the web and it'll, you can just change this user ID variable into an actual value, and then you'll be able to test it. Okay, so our next step, we've got it to development at this point. Now development has completed their testing, so we want to go ahead and move it into QA. So the process is just clicking the button here. The system knows all the information now because you put all the information in the first time, so it knows what information will be needed to use to deploy it to the QA environment. And so it moves the objects for you, and it also takes care of installing your item to the web server. So now you can see here, we're in the QA. So now the next process is to move to production. So all you have to do is click the production, the deployment button, and it's now actually moving it, everything over to the secondary machine, because now we're going over to the production machine. We're transferring everything over there. If the service exists, it's going to delete it and uninstall it and then reinstall it. And then the last part of the process is it verifies that the service was installed correctly. So that's the basic process that in 2E and in Matchpoint for deploying web services. So, and that's all I have for today.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mark.
You're welcome.
That takes us to our next poll question, and that is, what color of a t-shirt appeals to you? So we have these fantastic t-shirts with this Formula One logo that Summer is sporting there on her hat, but that logo is also going to be on a t-shirt. What we need to decide as a group is what color of a t-shirt do we want to get? So all the t-shirts are going to be one color. It's going to be one of these options. So your options are black, white, blue, green, red, or tie-dye. So anyway, vote on which color you would prefer, and we'll give you a few seconds here to get your vote in. And we get to responses. Since I can't see them, Mark, if you would tell us what the
Yes.
winner is.
I'm sorry, Roger. We were limited to only have 5. With our poll question, we can only have 5 options, so we had the bag green. But anyway, here's the results. Blue is the big winner, 39%. Followed by black and second place at 27%, and then white and 21%. Tie-dye for the hippies out there, 15%, and red finished dead last in 6%. So I guess not big Ferrari fans out there, Roger. Blue is the big winner.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we come to our next featured speaker. So this is Russell Berkeley, who is from Systems Analyst with ICS Courier, and they are based in Toronto, Canada. So Russell, let me turn it over to you.
Hi everyone. I'll just go through this part quickly. I've been working with 2E most of my life, since the early days on the System 38 and moving forward. I guess my approach, because this is a lightning demo, I'm going to go through 3 basic little videos and I'll just talk over them. And they're basically preludes to the October conference, as far as if you want to vote to see a presentation on these 3 demos and how you go about doing it. So I'm going to start off with this one. It's really not a 2E or a Plex issue. It's just navigation around the AS400. As I said, back in the day, I was on a system 38 and moving to the AS400 and using a dumb terminal. So as you all know, with dumb, you've got system request 1. Those are your 2 options to sign on. So I've been using this little function called group jobs to basically launch multiple jobs within the one login screen of the AS400 to allow me to do various things all within one login. So as you can see here, I'm in a 2E action diagram. I can hit the attention key and then jump into another screen and go into a 2E function, do some work, hit the attention key again, and it'll pop up the menu and I can go into another option. Multiple options, in this case, going into a menu option. So if you think of it from a day-to-day basis, I can have one screen with my 2E development, doing action diagram stuff, whatever. I can have another session where I'm accessing screens within my application. Someone calls me, they need a password reset. I can just go into another screen and change their password. I can go into 2E as a designer and make some changes as a designer, while still on a previous session being a programmer. So it just allows me the flexibility of having what I would call windows within the AS400 world. So this is using group jobs. Again, this is a demo. You guys can vote, and if you want to see a presentation on how to set this up, it's a series of just CL commands, basically, that allows you to do various things. That's the first demo. Second demo is more geared to 2E. What I'm going to show you in this demo is how to change your screens, your 2E generated screens, 8-column display, to use a 132-column display for, say, a display file. So here you can see the 132-column display, and I've, just load up some data into it. So I can leave it at just this, to say, here you go, it exists. Here's a 132-column display in 2E. And again, I can do a presentation to show you how I accomplish this. It's really not that difficult. But I went a little further. In this screen, you'll see I've got subfile options on the top, and I've got function keys on the bottom, which is standard in a 2E 5250 screen. But what I've done is I've made these 2 types of functions variable, meaning on the fly, I can go in and change where these options appear on the screen. So there's a header and a footer. So basically each one is, I just create an application in 2E that shows me for this particular screen, here's my function options, and I can move them around. So here, let's take W equals web here, and I'm just going to move it to the other side, as you can see there, right on the fly. I also provided the ability to hide an option, so it's available if you were to take the option, but on the screen I can hide it from the view of the user. Or I can even put security around it, so only certain user profiles would have access to a particular menu option. So I can do that on the top, and then whatever I change, it resequence or reformats it so it looks, nicely spaced out. But I also made the bottom, the footer, a variable, and I can do the same sort of thing. Same function, I can go in, I can change here, let's see, F6 equals filter deliveries, and I can move that around. I can hide this function key. I can change it completely. So you can think of in the IDMI standards F24, F23 for more options and for more functions. I can do all that sort of thing and provide more functions on the bottom. as well as the top. So that's all part of 132 column display with a little bit of an added feature that I built within the 2E. Let's move on to the next one. Next one's pretty cool. This one has to do with sending emails. So it's not really, but I did use 2E to develop the actual email command. So what I'm going to do is launch this little thing, this CL test program before I start talking. So first thing you want to know is if you Google mail and you go into this function, this gentleman here has got a whole bunch of really cool APIs for the AS400. One of them using for this demo is the mail API. So you got to get that mail API onto your machine. And then from that, I'll show you how elegant you can make emails from a AS400 onto your, to send emails basically. So this CL just goes through a whole bunch of different email type of options. I can send an email using an email address, a user ID, a report distribution. I can have a subject and a body, but I can also send spool files. I can send files, physical files. I can send them in a text format, PDF format, HTML format, CSV format, all sorts of cool mail functions. So let's just see here. I'm just going to fast forward this because I know it's a lightning presentation, just to show you what the emails will look like. So here's a general empty email that came from the 400 through that CL that I ran. So with it, I automatically attach a sender, the job name, and the program stack that the email came from. It helps me to debug when I receive an email on the 400 to know what program it came from. So I'm just going to show you and go through some different types of emails. Again, I just threw in a bunch of HTML text into the email on the 400, and from it, it deciphers it. So it created a body and it created an attachment. Here's a work system status. Spool file attachment with a body of a bunch of HTML. I can also send it as a PDF file attachment. So same thing I showed before, that was within the body HTML. Now it's an attachment, PDF type of attachment. So I can send, let's see, text file attachments, CSV attachments, HTML attachments. I'm going to go to the end, some of the cool ones. So here's a good one. Here's an attachment, HTML attachment that shows really nicely formatted document sent to an email as an HTML attachment. Then I can actually send that same document as an HTML within the email body itself. So that's all done through this email command using that mail functionality or API that I had showed you before. So those are the three bulk demos. Wow, I went through them pretty lightning fast compared to the rehearsal. So what I want to do here is I want to give you a little something you can possibly take home with you and try yourself. So what this is it's a demo of the system request 3. So this is something that's really easy to do. But if you were to go into a function, I'm just going into a sign-on function, doesn't matter what it is, and you do a system request 3. We all know what you get from this is a display job, right? And from it, you can look at spool files, your stack, your library list, etc. But that's really all you can do. You're limited in this with this display job. So what you can do with this little trick or hack is go into the message ID and change display job to work job. Now I realize it's some security shops may not like you doing this sort of stuff. I leave that to your own security officer beliefs, but let's just see what you can do now when you go into any function. You're in the middle of a function and you want to do a system request 3. Maybe you want to change where the spool file is going, because now it's a work job. You now have a command line, so you can go into SQL, you can go into work active job, any kind of command line. You can evaluate your QTemp library. You can move spool files from one output to another while still being inside of a function. So I've been changing this, using this little hack in the last 30 years. It seems to work with every operating system so far. And it just allows you that flexibility of changing a display job into a work job. And by doing that, I find it makes life a lot easier for myself. Realizing that if you don't have command line entry as a user, you still won't be able to access when you do that system request 3 to the work job. You still won't have access to your command lines unless you're a programmer. But you could go in and move a spool file from one print queue to another. So those are my 3 demos, lightning fast demos. And I'll let Mark put up the poll to see if you wanted to go through a deep dive explanation of that at the conference. So I'll throw it back to Mark.
Thank you, Russell.
Thanks. Really, really good, helpful tips. And obviously for people to get the full deal, the good magician never reveals his secrets unless you come to the conference.
Exactly.
So with that said, we have that last poll question, or are we going straight to Q&A? Poll question, which topics do you want to hear more about at the 11th conference? There are 5 options here. Creating a 132 column display, which you saw, one of the lightning talks. Using group jobs to navigate around the AS400. Number 3 is sending HTML emails from the AS400. And then 2 new topics that Russell didn't go into is using QCM DEXC to execute instructions within 2E. And last, using strp ccmd to invoke local PC commands from the AS400. Really, really rich options here for the 2E community. So the big winners were number 3 and number 5, which is sending HTML emails from the AS400. 64% of you want to see that. And using the strp ccmd to invoke local PC commands from the AS400, same thing, 64% wanted that. And the other 3 are all pretty close. The 132 column, the group jobs, as well as the QCM DEXC to execute instructions, all get around 36 to 40% response.
If you will please go to the Plex2E.com website and click on the sessions link, you're going to get a screen that's got all of the sessions for all 3 tracks. And for each one of those sessions, we've got the session title, the session description, but there's 5 stars there to the right of it. And that's where you can vote on which sessions interest you. So please go in there and cast your vote, because we're going to use the response from this voting to help kind of determine which sessions actually make it to the conference. So in many cases, we have more sessions than we have time for. So depending on what the level of interest is, that's going to determine which sessions actually make it to the conference. And also it's going to depend on which sessions we get speakers or session leaders for. So that's why it's so important that we can get some people who will volunteer to be a speaker, because that's going to help determine which sessions actually get presented at the conference. Okay, so there again, please go to plex2e.com. And I encourage you to do it on a regular basis, because this website, we're going to continue to be adding links here. We're going to be adding information. Everything that's going on, you're going to be able to get to that information from the single source. So there is Summer. Summer is in charge of getting these fantastic Formula One hats and shirts and this type of thing. So she designed the graphic for this, and so she's going to be kind of taking the lead on that process. So please go to the website, register for the conference, do it before the 7th, and you'll get $25 fee. After that, it goes to $50. Also, please send me an email to roger@plex2e.com and say, yes, Roger, I want to be a speaker and or a session leader. That's what I'm looking for. I'll also take anything that you'll do for us. So just contact me, and I assure you that you'll get a response back within a few seconds saying, yes, I will accept your offer to volunteer. Please contact Mark O'Brien if you're interested in being a sponsor for this conference. And there's his email address there. And we are going to be also, please go to the Facebook group Plex2E, and we're going to be posting information on there. So we're also the issue of the shirts. We're going to be posting a link on the Plex2E site that's going to talk about how you can order your shirt. So hopefully we get these things ordered. You have them in time for the conference, so that when we're in this virtual conference, you're wearing the official Plex2E shirt with the Formula One graphic on it there, and the hats. I mean, you're going to be dressed to the nines. You're going to be looking really sharp with these t-shirts and hats, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, which takes us to our last slide, and that is questions and answers. So I'm going to turn that over to you, Mark or John, if you can kind of tell us what kind of questions we've received from the webinar today, and we'll try and answer them.
Yes, one question that came up was ordering on sizes of t-shirts, and will there be a women's style t-shirt? The t-shirts we've been looking at go up to a 3X from small, so that should be able to accommodate everybody. And then Summer, ladies?
Yeah, will be from XS to XL, and we'll put it up on the website and on Facebook, and you guys can order it from Eventbrite.
Great, so the same place we register, we can also order a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Another question, Roger, is do I need to have Plex or other software installed on my PC for the workshops?
No, you shouldn't have to have that installed. We're going to have all of that stuff set up so you can just do it remotely, and there should be no installation requirements for Plex on your local workstation.
Okay, so I'm hearing we'll have cloud versions too.
Yeah.
And then which version of 2E will be used for the workshops?
It'd be the latest version, so 8.7.1, I believe, is what we'll be using.
Perfect. Okay. And last but not least, how many workshops are you planning to have on Friday?
So the number of workshops, I think, is kind of in a state of flux right now. It's going to kind of depend on what we get for responses and stuff. So we'll keep that information. We'll post it to the Plex2E.com site as far as, as soon as we get more information. So a lot of this is still in a state of planning.
Great. Glad to hear it. Thank you, Roger and Rob and Mark Schroeder and Summer and Russell Berkeley for your contributions today. And please go visit the website and vote, as Roger said, and also follow up with us for speaker and session and lightning, especially lightning talks. There's a great response for lightning talk people too. So we want to see some cool topics, and we'll figure this thing out. Only 6 weeks to go.
Thank you very much, Mark, and we look forward to seeing everyone at the conference, and everyone have a great day, and we will see you later.
Thanks. Bye-bye all.